I thought it'd be handy for you to know my symptoms
Sure.
because
Yeah.
basically overall I'm feeling very well. I feel very good. I've got two kids.
Hmm.
I'm married, just a very regular. I work part-time.
Hmm.
But I do have this one problem that I've been struggling with for a while, and I haven't been able to get any answers for it. So basically, I know that you're an absolute master in fatigue. So this is good luck for me. I basically can only do so much in the day
Hmm.
until I shut down. So when I mean shut down, I mean when I'm very, very busy, suddenly it's like my brain doesn't work and it just
Hmm.
stops. It just stops kind of functioning properly. I feel dizzy. I feel brain fog. And the only real way to get rid of it is to take a nap, which obviously I can't do all the time when I need
Right.
it. So because I've got kids, I've got to do the school run, and
That's right.
I've probably got some work to do. So basically, if I don't get to have that nap, then I basically spend the rest of the day in this sort of dream world where I feel like my brain is really like, if you imagine a car with tires, it's like the tires
Hmm.
have been ripped off and I'm just driving on the metal of the wheel and it's like
Mm. Wow.
sparks and it's like grinding and I feel like I just crash basically. So I can have that every day if I'm not careful. And so basically the issue is that that limits me a lot because there's only so much I can do in the day. So if
Hmm.
somebody wants to add something else to my plate, or if I want to add something else to my plate, if I want to take on a little bit more work, or if I want to, do a workout, I can't because I've got this problem and I need to have a nap.
Sure. No,
So,
I get it. I get it.
yeah. So I've not been able to figure out what the issue is there, and I would love to figure it out. And I wonder if you can help with that today, amongst some other things, I'm sure.
No, I'll do my best. Um, when did you first start to experience those types of symptoms?
So I think it really started after my first child. So
Mhm.
she's 6 now. So after giving birth, that's when I first started to get dizzy.
Okay.
And then since my second child, it's gotten a little worse.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's been over a period of, let's say, 4 years, maybe 4 years.
Okay. Uh, did you have any trouble conceiving, getting pregnant?
My first, no, my second, yes. It took me 2 years.
Okay. Do you want to know why, or should I keep it a secret?
I know you're not good at keeping secrets,
No,
Morley.
I know. Yeah. Um, any animal farmer knows that if his animals are not reproducing, they're not having offspring, there's only one supplement he adds to their diet. It's copper. It changes. There's so we live on a planet with two foundational toxins. We think toxins have got to be heavy metals or some bizarre chemical is being sprayed on us or what. No, the biggest toxins on the planet are oxygen. It's 20% of the air we breathe is a toxin, but we have the ability to neutralize it and allow it to be part of our metabolism so we can release energy. But you've got to be able to turn oxygen into water inside the mitochondria in order to release the energy molecules. I think it's the most important chemical transaction on the planet. Got to turn oxygen into two molecules of water so we can release ATP. And the other toxin is iron, and it's the master pro-oxidant. So what does iron like to do with oxygen? It likes to create rust. They're really good at it. And there's only one element on the planet that can regulate both of them at the same time and not create any static electricity. And that's copper. That's copper's job is to regulate iron and oxygen so that we can go about our day. When you had your first child 6 years ago, what you may not have known about was that there was a significant download of copper between mother and child in the last trimester of the pregnancy. So as adults, we're supposed to have 100 milligrams of copper. And that sounds like a lot, but it's not. It actually fits on the head of a 1-inch stick pin. So it's a very tiny amount. But that copper is the general that runs the thousands of milligrams of iron we have in our body. And so on average, a woman should have about 4,000 milligrams of iron, and a man should have about 5,000 milligrams. Now, what you can do is you can get out your calculator to find out how much iron you really have. And you take your age. We'll definitely keep it at 39.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
39. Let's
yeah.
not take it. Let's not round it
No,
up.
no, we won't round it up. 39. I've learned over the years. So multiply 39 times 365, and that's 14,235 milligrams of iron in your body. So it's a multiple of how much is supposed to be there. Okay? That should make you a little nervous because no one ever told you how much iron you have. You just know that I get tired. Or have you ever been told you were anemic? Have you ever been labeled
Yes.
anemic?
And so I've been tested for iron before, and it was a little low a few years ago, and so I was told to take some iron tablets.
Okay. All right. And that's very common. A lot of people have had that experience. So back to the pregnancy, back to the third trimester. Actually, yeah, third trimester. This is true for all mammals. This isn't just humans. All mammals, the woman is downloading a bolus of copper for the fetus to use. And so as adults, we have 100 milligrams, assuming that the pregnancy goes to fruition. The fetus, the human fetus, should walk away with about 70 milligrams of copper. So 70% of the copper we need comes from mom. And it's about 350 milligrams of iron we get from mom in that same time frame. Now, one of the myths that runs the planet is that babies are born perfect. No, babies take what they can get. And there's a very good chance if you were told previously that you were, quote, anemic, it means one of your iron markers was low. But what's really behind anemia is lack of bioavailable copper. And so you were told to take iron, not copper. Why were you told to take iron? Because that doesn't solve the problem. Copper would solve the problem. And then they lose the edge to keep you under wraps, as it were. So your sense of dizziness started after your first child was born. Well, dizziness is a sign of low copper, especially in the cerebellum. And so people often go to the middle ear, but I think it's also the cerebellum that's in play. And so, did you breastfeed your daughter?
I did for 3 weeks though, because she was having trouble latching.
Okay. And did she have a tongue tie or anything like that?
No, no, it's just yeah, just it just didn't match. I just had difficulty. Yeah.
Okay. Um, and then you said it took you 2 years to get pregnant again. So your body was out of balance following the first pregnancy, which is not uncommon.
Mm.
And the sickest client that I've worked with she's in the Amish community up in Pennsylvania, and she was the 10th child of the 10th child.
Oh, wow.
And so she was a mineral desert, and she was really struggling as an individual. But she perked up. I mean, it just takes time. So after you got pregnant, you probably don't remember these numbers, but it would be fascinating to know. Do you recall or know what your hemoglobin was just before your two children were born?
No, no idea.
Okay.
No.
That would be a fun homework assignment for you to see
Yeah,
if your doctor kept track of that, because what modern birthing practitioners want is they want the hemoglobin as close to 12 as possible, ideally above 12. Mother Nature wants it at 8.5 to 9.5, or depending upon the units, it might be 85 to 95, and the doctor wants it around 120. But if you, the higher your hemoglobin is, the more out of balance you are from a mineral standpoint. And again, there's a complete misunderstanding about copper and iron during pregnancy. And one of the most important aspects of getting pregnant is being able to overcome the, the natural oxidative stress that is created when the egg and the sperm unite. There's, there's a reaction, and and you need to be able to have the physiology to neutralize that, to allow the union to proceed. For 2 years, you were struggling with that union, and then over time, you began, you apparently brought your minerals back into balance. And again, I'm basing this on lots and lots of articles, lots of conversations with women who've struggled. I don't have certainty about this, but I'm pretty confident that would be how it would have played out. And both pregnancies went to term.
they did. Yeah,
Okay, that's great. That's great. Did you breastfeed the second baby?
I did for a week this time.
Okay, all right. Um, but they don't have tongue ties.
No. What's a
Interesting.
tongue tie? Sorry.
Well, it's where there's a midline defect and they can't latch on because there's connective tissue in the way of the tongue really being able to
I
latch
see.
on.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Um, I would think you would know if that's a very common issue today. So um, you have this debilitating fatigue. About what time is it during the day?
Okay, so I'm busiest in the morning, so it's maybe late morning it starts to kick in. And
Okay.
then yeah, so let's say between 11 and to 2 or 3 o'clock, it could happen between those times.
Okay. So
It depends how busy I am. If I'm not busy at all, I don't get it at all.
okay.
But
Well, you
then,
you
yeah,
run out of energy.
I run out of energy.
Um,
Yeah.
so what kind of diet do you have? How frequently do you eat, and what types of foods do you have morning, midday, and end of day?
So I've been experimenting with the carnivore diet
Okay.
recently. For the
Okay.
last since August last year, I've been kind of dabbling. So I've really upped my kind of protein, animal protein, lots of
Right.
fat. Um, but I've been kind of dabbling. I've done about 5 weeks hardcore recently.
Okay.
That was around the time of the blood test, actually.
Okay.
Um, but then generally before that, it's generally quite healthy, I would say. Like it's, I focus on protein. I don't eat much sugar,
Okay.
and I don't eat much kind of flour or bread or pasta or
Okay.
stuff, but I do treat myself every now and again. And then in terms of timings, this is interesting. At the time when I was trying to get pregnant, I remember at the time I was doing a lot of fasting and and I still to this day struggle to get breakfast in me. So when I was doing the
Mhm.
carnivore diet hardcore for 5 weeks, I found that I needed breakfast and my appetite got really insatiable and it was a really nice feeling. I was like, wow, I'm hungry in the morning. This is amazing.
That's right. Yeah.
Um, and then that settled, and now I'm back to having not. I don't really eat much in the morning, so I haven't eaten now, and it's quarter to 10 in the morning, and I feel quite comfortable that way. And then I'll have lunch, something high protein, animal protein again, and then I'll probably snack on some chocolate or something, dark chocolate, and then in the
Mhm.
evening I'll have a large dinner. So I'll have like, yeah,
And what time is dinner typically?
dinner is 6
Okay.
usually.
All right.
Yeah.
Um, I think a lot of people do that. They tend to skip the breakfast meal,
Mm,
or they'll have a smoothie. And that's really when we need the protein is
right.
at the start of the day. It's
Yeah,
really
I
very,
feel
very helpful.
that.
Yeah, it's very, very helpful, especially if there's a lot of activity. If that's when you're busiest, you're going to want to be able to do that. Um, does your fatigue during the day change at all as your menstrual cycle changes? Is there any
Um,
dynamic there at all?
do you know what, there could be. I haven't tracked it 100%, but I feel like it can be worse as I approach my period,
Okay.
but it happens all month long.
Oh, no, no, no. I get that.
Yeah.
But I think we've been trained to believe that the menstrual cycle is based on the whirling sea of estrogen and progesterone. No, it's the whirling seas of magnesium and iron. And as iron is building, as it would build during the course of the menstrual cycle in anticipation of an implantation, um, if there is no implantation, if then the body has this bolus of iron it's got to get rid of. That's what the cycle is about. There's only two reasons why women outlive men. Two reasons. Women are smarter. That's a biological fact. And two, women have a monthly loss of iron.
We get rid of our iron every month.
You get rid of your iron.
Mm.
We don't do that as men. We have accidents. We used to fight in the fields or have accidents in the field, and we would lose blood then. But but that's an established fact. And Jerry Sullivan was a world-renowned pathologist, MD, PhD pathologist, who figured that out back in the late 70s and early 80s. And he developed what's called the iron heart hypothesis, that as we age, we accumulate iron, and that's what leads to our aging and our diseases. And so, um, as you go through the menstrual cycle, be aware that that's taking place. And that's why the magnesium is so important, to keep that buildup of iron is a stressor in your body. Um, the other part of the dynamic is there's an emotional side to this, that you are very aware of your fatigue factor, and every day you're waiting for it to come. There's a there's a it's not just a fatigue factor, it's a fear factor. You're afraid it's coming.
Yeah.
And so you got to spell fear properly. It's FE hyphen AR. And that way you see the symbol for iron. And when we're in a state of fear, we're magnets for iron. And so there's this subtle, quiet fear in your psyche, worrying about this daily process that you go through. And you want answers. You want, hey, you're gonna figure this out for me, right? Because you're worried about it.
Yeah.
And you're not broken, but you're out of balance.
Mm.
And so the key is to have an understanding of where the minerals are in your body, and that's really what the blood test was about. And so to me, it's I don't have absolute certainty, but I'm pretty confident, as I said, that this whole dynamic originated as you were dealing with your first pregnancy. And the fact that there's brain fog tells me that you're not breaking down your ammonia in your liver. And there's four enzymes that do that. Well, the very first enzyme, get my camera back, the very first enzyme is copper dependent. And if you can't start to break down the ammonia, then you are going to have brain fog. It just goes with the territory. And I think the challenge is, on the surface, you look really healthy, right? You don't have the impression of someone who's really struggling, and yet you've had this lingering malaise for 6 years. It started when you got pregnant, or was it when you got pregnant or when you delivered?
It's after
Okay,
delivery.
after you
Yeah.
delivered. Okay, so you'd given up your minerals by then.
Yeah.
And so women give up 10% of their mineral mass with each birth. It's not uncommon for young women today not to have the mineral mass to have the offspring. They forgot to tell us how important that was. And you have a careful diet, but there's still stuff you're eating that you probably don't even know about.
Mm.
And unfortunately, things like glyphosate, farming chemical, you think you're avoiding it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's in the air.
Oh God.
It's everywhere.
Yeah,
And and
scary.
and there was a very prominent study done in 2022 of French citizens, because France banned glyphosate back in 1987. It was against the law to use glyphosate. So someone said, well, let's do a study in 35 years, a generation later, 35 years later, to see how did the French fare with that decision. And 99% of French citizens are peeing glyphosate into their urine. 99%. And so why is that important to know? Because glyphosate chelates copper with abandon, with
Mm.
no abandon. It's it has a preference for copper. It'll chelate copper 1,000 times faster than zinc or iron. It'll chelate copper 1 billion times faster than it chelates calcium or magnesium.
So you mean it'll
Eh,
bind it up and flush it out?
Exactly. Yep. So you have to be, that's why the protocol, the root cause protocol, is designed to restore copper status and make sure that it's going to be bioavailable. That's really what it's designed to do. The other side of it is to deal with the buildup of iron in your body that is just a natural part of living on the planet now, that I think has been uh, intensified over the last 100 years because of all of the iron fortification. And so we have iron fortified food, we have iron fortified supplements, we have iron infusions. I mean, iron is everywhere. And I'll give you $1,000 for any food that has an extra amount of copper in it. They don't exist. In fact, the problem is that the copper is disappearing from the food, both the food that's grown in the soil, but the food that's processed in the plant, and it's just not readily available. Does that make sense?